Hi everybody, welcome back to the Wonder of Anime YouTube channel. My name is Lisa, and for today's video, I'm going to be doing a sort of in-depth, definitely spoilers, review of the manga Haru's Curse. I learned about this manga, Haru's Curse, from the lovely Destiny of Getting Animated podcast and Instagram, Twitter, all her socials are getting animated. And she had been talking about this, and when it got licensed in the US, I'm pretty sure she bought it and kind of was just talking a lot about this manga, that it was really good, even though the premise was a little bit at first. And I was definitely interested. Me and Destiny, just based off her podcast episodes and what she posts on social media, have a lot of the same taste. A lot of the things she likes, I like or have similar opinions on. So I felt like if she was talking about this, then it was definitely worth checking out. Now, I had definitely seen this story online, but I kind of was like, I'd rather read it like in physical manga form, get the official translations. So I didn't read it online at all. And a couple weeks ago, I went to Barnes & Noble, which I will be doing my June manga haul very soon, once June is over. And I picked this up, and I was definitely scared to get into it, but I am so glad that I did. So Haru's Curse is about this girl here on the back cover. It's not about her. Her name is Haru, and she is sisters with Natsumi, who is pictured right here. And after Haru passes away, Natsumi starts dating her sister's boyfriend, Togo. And immediately based on that synopsis, I was like, hell no, I ain't fucking reading this. What kind of backstabbing ass sister? Although it is very common, or was very common in the olden days, for people, like, once somebody died, like, they will get with the sibling of who they were with. So that's not uncommon, especially in certain cultures, or back in the day, that kind of was like encouraged. So immediately upon knowing that, I was hesitant, like I said, to want to get into this. But Destiny said it was good, so I was like, all right, girl, I'm going to give it a try. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I kind of skipped past that and got into the story. So basically what happens is, if you know, because you're watching this video, you've already read it, and you're not going to be spoiled. Natsumi and Haru met Togo 2 years prior to the events, like the current time of the book. It was like an arranged marriage situation due to the families. Immediately, his family liked Haru, because Haru kind of seemed more put together of her and Natsumi. Like, she seemed the one that was more put together. And they started dating. However, the entire time it is kind of revealed that Togo was going along with it, but he really kind of had his eyes on Natsumi, just based on her personality and, every time that he kind of like had an encounter with her, because something about her was just kind of like interesting to him. When Haru dies, Natsumi and Togo start dating. And kind of like right after the funeral, he's like, hey, date me, because we still gotta our families still want this arranged marriage. And she, surprisingly to herself, surprisingly to him, says, yes, all right, like, we'll date under one condition. Like, you have to take me to every place that you went to with Haru. And they are kind of like doing all the same dates that him and the first girl did together, which was super weird. As the story goes on, you learn the backstory of Natsumi and Haru, and how they, due to family issues, they kind of only had each other. So Natsumi feels very strongly about her sister, to the point where she's like, was I in love with my sister? Which we'll get to. And turns out, she's riddled with guilt, because her sister really loved Togo. And she's like, damn, I'm doing this to my sister, but I kind of also want to be with him too. And it is like twists and turns of emotions. In the end, Togo and Natsumi realize that they do love each other for each other. They do both feel bad because Haru is no longer there, but they kind of decide, like, listen, like, we're just going to be together, and it is what it is. And they move on, and they get together. they get back together, because they kind of broke up for like a period of time. That sounds initially like a hot ass mess. And as I was reading, I was like, oh, this makes sense. Oh, okay. These kind of things make sense. personally, the arranged marriage, that is such a common trope in manga. And for some reason, like when people have arranged marriages, especially in Josie manga, it's like to justify them cheating. They're like, oh, I fell in love with you, but it's okay because my marriage is an arranged marriage. So that's also funny to me. But at the time that everybody meets, they're like teenagers. And then, you know, now Togo and Natsumi are in their 20s. They're working, living their lives. I completely felt like it was okay for them to get together. That may be controversial opinion. But I also think, too, that although Haru doesn't know, Togo really wasn't in love with her. And from the beginning, he always liked Natsumi. And I think that Natsumi kind of had an initial attraction to him, just kind of my gathering of it. But, you know, she was more so concerned about losing her sister, and she didn't want to lose her sister to Togo, which she felt like she ended up doing. I really also enjoyed how the story handles grief and the emotions that people feel when they lose somebody, especially when I think there was a lot of things in Natsumi and Haru's relationship that they did not disclose to each other. And I felt like Natsumi, once Togo and Haru got together, like she felt a lot of jealousy because she felt like she was losing her sister, but she never communicated that with Haru. And she also compared herself a lot to Haru, and she felt like Haru was the one who had her entire life together. You know, I'm the older sister. My dad really don't fuck with me like that. I'm not, you know, Togo's family clearly didn't see me as interest. And in that comparison, while she loved her sister, I think she also resented her sister. And I think that was something that she really kind of didn't realize until she passed and she started dating her boyfriend. And it's also interesting when Haru's blog gets found posthumously, and Natsumi is reading this and kind of like, wow, like there was this whole side of my sister that I didn't know, because Haru also really admired her sister and in a way was kind of jealous of her as well, but they never communicated that to each other. So they're both kind of like thinking like, wow, like I wish I was more like this other person. And it's also interesting too, because you see through Togo's perspective that even though he was with Haru spent a lot of the time talking about Natsumi and how much he admired her and all of her amazing traits. And in the flashbacks and in the like journaling, Haru realized that Togo and Natsumi definitely had chemistry, and she realizes that like Togo liked Natsumi and didn't like her. And that part of it was definitely like heartbreaking. Like I was like, damn, Haru, I feel for you because you dying and you also losing your man and you're not gonna be with him. And it's like all these little intricacies and nuances that go into this story. You know, of course in the main story, like this girl getting with her dead sister's fiance is like, but then you learn the backstory, like he never really loved her, he always loved, like, it reminded me of the book Like Water for Chocolate, if anybody has ever read that, or para el chocolate, like El Agua para el Chocolate, which is like this Mexican story, and it's also a movie, and it is so amazing. But it is about this sister who's the youngest sister in the family, and she falls in love with this man, and her mom, in an attempt to like be like, girl, you would never leave me, you're the one that's gonna take care of me forever, arranges for the sister and the man to be together. And she has to live her whole life watching the love of her life be with her sister while always being in love with him and never having been with him. Like, how crazy is that? So that kind of reminded me of this. I know it's completely different genre, completely different type of story. The one takeaway that I really got from this book is that sometimes, and I don't want to, like, I guess justify some fucked up shit, but the reality is that not everybody's relationship starts off in these picture perfect, you know, stories like, oh, we got together and now everything's amazing and it's perfect. And it's like, that's not how some relationships go. And one thing that I thought that was super really good in this story, that I love that it happened, was when Natsumi's stepmom kind of confronts Natsumi and is like, I know you dating Togo because you acting like how you're acting when your sister was dating him, and I think that's super messed up. Like, your sister is dead. How can you kind of do this to her? And then Natsumi was like, but you were with my dad while he was with my mom, and you were with him the entire time, and then you both broke up that marriage and got together. And that part was just like, oh girl, you damn right, you right. And the reality is, like, that happens so many times. I know so many people in real life that their stepmoms kind of, I wouldn't say the stepmom ruined the marriage, because there's two people in a relationship. The husband is definitely the one that stepped out, but I definitely know people that the person started as a mistress and now they were made the wife. It is what it is. That is what happens. So to see that called out in this manga was absolutely amazing. Overall, I definitely am glad that I read this manga and that I read this story, because like I said, I immediately would have wrote it off, but I'm so glad that Destiny had really good things to say about it, because it pushed me to read it. And although it is not an ideal story, I think it definitely covers the nuances of those relationships that don't always have the perfect ending, and in dealing in grief and in dealing with love and feeling like, you know, like I have to make decisions, the best decisions for me to move on. And I really love that. I also discovered, thanks to somebody on Twitter, that this mangaka, Asuka Konishi, they have another series that I've actually been reading online. That series is so wild and crazy, and let me get the name of it. The other manga is called Rise wa Taningali. It is just so good, and I should have, like, these people are drawn almost exactly the same as the other the other characters in the other story, and that story is like Yakuza, wild, teenage, arranged marriage, but we gangsters and we gonna fight and beat people up, and drugs. It is absolutely insane, but it's so good. And I don't know if that one's been serialized in the US, but once it is, or if it is already, like, I definitely want to own it because it's that good. I appreciate you guys for watching this review. If you have any other stories like this that be on some wild shit love wise, let me know, because I was really pleasantly surprised with this. I'm so glad that I gave it a chance. And I kind of like, it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I live for the drama. I have read and am in the process of reading There's Something Wrong with Us, that I really want to do a video on, but I'm waiting for the rest of the story to be finished before I do a video on it. But that so if you got anything along those lines, please feel free to comment them in the comments below. If you read this, I hope you have, if you got to this part of the video. Let's talk about it, because there's definitely feelings to be had. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.